Now that your child's been identified and has gone through the evaluation process and it's been determined that your child has a disability and that they're entitled to special education and related services, and you go to an IEP meeting and you set up a plan, then after all that's done, the next thing that happens is your child is placed into an educational setting. Now, this setting can look a lot different. It depends on the unique needs of the child. We're going to explain all the things that are involved in an initial setting. That free appropriate public education is part of it. Least restrictive environment is part of placement. We will explain all of that to you. We'll show you the notifications and go through those, and we'll go through the Code of Federal Regulations so that you understand everything about placement. But what I really want to stress to you is once your child is placed, the key thing is to keep monitoring your child's progress. If your child is doing well in their placement, then you've got a great placement. If they're not doing well in that placement, this is something you need to take back to the IEP team and talk about. Now, let's just take a look at an example real quickly of a progress report that's under the state reporting system. And while this is one way to report on your child's progress, there are lots of other different ways. The key thing is to keep up. But let's take a look at this progress report first, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more about placement. This is a pretty standard progress report. This is off the state reporting system. Listed here is your son or daughter, which school they attend, you, the parents, the date that the progress report was created, which school district your child is in, and here they put your annual goal that's on your IEP. So each and every one of your goals will be listed in different sections. As we go down, you'll see that there's more room to put more goals in. And then they list the benchmarks, and these are really shorter term goals to reach your annual goal. So these are just marks along the way that you want to meet. Let's say, for example, for a simplified example, your child is going to learn to count to 10. One of the benchmarks is that they learn to count to 5. So when they learn to count to 5, they met one of the benchmarks. The second benchmark is to meet the annual goal of counting to 10. So the benchmarks are in here. Here's how they evaluate how your child's doing. And then they tell you a little bit about how your child is progressing on this particular goal and whether it's sufficient. And then they have some comments down here. And really all this is here is just a narrative on how your child is doing. As we go down the page, and as I stated earlier, then there's a place for another goal. So each and every goal that's on your IEP will be listed, and then there will be a narrative on how your child is doing. Now, it could be a narrative, it could be a written report. There's lots of different ways to report those type of things. This is the state reporting system progress report. That's just one way to show the progress of your child. There's lots of other ways also. I've seen written reports. Sometimes they do the reporting on progress through grade reports. Sometimes parents meet with teachers on a regular basis to discuss how their child's progressing. I've even seen it gone to the point where a notebook goes back and forth every day to kind of track the progress of the child. Now, that's the key thing. We will talk a little bit about placement and where your child is placed and the rules and regulations behind that. But really remember, just keep monitoring where your child is at in the classroom and how they're doing. Once again, as I said, if it's a good placement, your child will thrive in that placement and do well. And if they're not meeting their goals and objectives, then you need to take a look at the placement and ask for an IEP meeting.